showcase event on Harvard TV. I'm Don Morrison. We're at Fallston High School tonight. It's a beautiful night for boys soccer. We have two great competitors, as you can see, the Bobcats and the Cougars, the Bel Air Bobcats, the Fallston Cougars. And of course, when these two teams get together, it is going to be a shootout. Mr. Bob, my partner, welcome. This is a big day for you. Let's talk about what happened today for Mr. Bob.
You embarrassed me.
No, Bob Frisch was inducted into the Edgewood High School Hall of Fame today. So, Bob, a special day for you, and thanks for coming out and in a sort of chilly night here, but it's going to be fun on your big day.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I certainly enjoy this, and you give me the opportunity, Don. It's a great opportunity to be out here and see quality games.
It is going to be a quality game. Bel Air, who defeated Fallston last year by a goal in overtime. The Bobcats come in with a very good record, as you know. The Bobcats come in with a record of 5-1-2. Their only loss was early in the year against Hereford. But Fallston is even a step better. They come in with a record of 6-0-1. Their only tie came in a draw against Harper Tech a week ago. You look at comparative scores, which is always hard to do. Fallston defeats Century by 4-1. Bel Air ends up in a tie with them 1-1. So, I mean, you know, it's a different day, it's different teams. But if you look at that, you'd say these two teams are evenly matched.
Yeah, I think so. Look at the records and how they played their opponents. Both teams have a pretty high-powered offense and are very stingy on the defense.
Fallston has a lot of motivation this year. They don't want to look beyond the regular season. Here's a team under the leadership of Chris Hoover. Chris has had two stints here at Fallston, going back into 2001 to 2013, and then 2017 to the present. He has taken the Fallston Cougar boys team to the state finals, that is the upper echelon, 7 times, and 7 times they've come up short, including last year when they lost it with 6 seconds to go. Brunswick scored with 6 seconds to go in the overtime and defeated Fallston. So Fallston was denied again the state title. They've got a lot going for them in terms of motivation.
Yeah, it's, defeat is hard, but lessons learned, and as you say, provides great motivation moving forward.
We're looking now at the starting lineup for the Bel Air Bobcats being introduced, wearing their white visiting uniforms. They're going to be starting Connor Banton and Logan Sabatino. They're at the upper part, the forwards. At the midfield, Matt Weidman, number 5. Andrew Lassen, number 7. Galen Kilsowitz, starting at the midfield. Ben Sellers and Isaiah Tanham. Also then behind, this is the backfield, Josh Martino, Amden Sokoff, and Owen Conway. In the goal, Ethan Crosby. Talk a little bit about Ethan Crosby if we can. This young man who's a senior, second-year starter. He's got 4 shutouts this year. And you know that, Bob, when you look at the goalie, he is the ultimate line of defense. And when you've got a senior leader like this, a man who's been a starter for 2 years and 4 shutouts already this year, that gives you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, actually, earlier in the year when the Sun Paper put out their preseason report, he was one of the players that they identified to look out for this year.
Honorable mention All-State last year. It gets a little, doesn't get a whole lot bigger than that to be somebody as a junior, to be an honorable mention All-State. And he's done nothing to, shame himself this year in terms of leading the Bel Air Bobcats. As we said, with 4 shutouts this season, the only loss we talked about coming against North Hartford very recently, a 2-1 loss, and that was, as I understand, in the closing moments as well. You're watching now the Fallston team being introduced. Ken Kripus up at the top. In the midfield, Ryland Shepard, Ethan Salsa, Romanic Palinelli, Andrew Ritchie, and Christian Worthington in the midfield. In the back line, Jordan Dillard, Zach Stromberger, Colby Risch, and Quentin McLaughlin. The goalkeeper is Dylan Kreis. Dylan also a senior, 29 saves this year, and he's been a big power as well. So if you look at those two goalies, Bob, you would say, hey, it's going to be difficult to score tonight.
Yeah, actually, and Dylan has he's waited his turn, and he stepped up big to fill some big shoes from the goalie that Fallston had last year, who was just an outstanding goalie. But Dylan has stepped up to the plate and done a really good job filling that position.
We were talking to Chris Hoover before the game, and I say we were talking to him. Chris had his game face on. He really, was intense about this. Talking about Dom Rose, who is the coach for Bel Air. These two are great, great friends. And I said, it's his Dom's birthday. You're going to be kind to him. He said, no, no. It's going to be a shootout here tonight when they cross those center lines. As you see, the teams continuing to be introduced. Tom Dixon, the announcer, doing a great job, as always. Beautiful night, Bob, for soccer. It's a little bit chilly out here tonight, but it's the kind of night that makes you want to just get out there and run. Now here to honor our national anthem. Our Star-Spangled Banner. Bob, a nice crowd here tonight. The Fallston home students out to support their team, and we've mentioned it whenever Bel Air gets together with Fallston, arch rivals, it's going to be a shootout. And again, when you get two teams with the talent that both of these two teams have, you got a lot to look forward to.
Now I'm looking for a very competitive game. Both teams have shown that they can score goals, but both teams have also shown they have stingy defenses.
Yeah.
So I think a game like this really boils down to fewest mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. And we're talking about, we look at the JV game, which ended in, what, a nothing tie. So we're looking at the kind of game that could be decided on a mistake, as you said, or maybe a fluke goal. You hope it's not that, but yeah, one goal, maybe two goals could make the difference. You look at, again, we talked about Fallston 6-0-1 coming in. Their only tie, of course, coming against Harper Tech when it was tied at 1-1. That came last week. Defeating Patterson Mill last time out. Also, they defeated Aberdeen. Bob, did you get that score of the Aberdeen game?
Yes, they won 5-2.
So again, good scoring and a stingy defense as well. Then turn the page and look at the Bobcats, 5-1-2. And again, we mentioned their only loss coming very early in the year in a tournament game against Hereford, a very tough team from Baltimore County. Since that time, they've either tied or won all of their games. We mentioned the only common opponent, that is Century, where Bel Air tied them, Fallston defeated them. Just about ready to go, as we mentioned. The temperature's probably in the low 50s, maybe a little bit of a chill wind. Just a nice night to stay warm and watch soccer.
They won't be cold on the field.
No, they won't. Bel Air Bobcats dressed in their white visiting uniforms, traveling right to left across your TV screen. Fallston in the orange uniforms with the white trim, defending the goal to your left. Just about ready to get underway. 40-minute halves. Yeah, there is overtime, 2 10-minute overtimes if necessary. No shootout in the regular season. Waiting for the referees to mark the ball ready to play. Owen Reckham and Matthew Richardson, the two referees here tonight. And we're underway. Bob, what do you looks like? What are they trying to do setting up here? Just feeling each other out in the beginning?
Yeah, at this point, it's just getting warm. Even though they've warmed up, it's not the same thing as getting warm. And they're just trying to establish a little bit of rhythm for themselves. Although as a referee, generally we say there are 5-minute intervals in the game where you're going to see the most pressure, and that's the first 5 minutes of the game, because each team is trying to establish their dominance.
Yeah.
They want to send the message that we're controlling the game.
Ball has been in the Fallston offensive end. Neither team, obviously, in the first 2 minutes with a real threat at this point. Bel Air almost had a breakaway there a moment ago, right in the beginning of the game. It looked like Connor Banton, number 2, almost had a breakaway, but the ball was knocked away from him. Tossing the ball in, Ben Sellers for Bel Air. Come the Cougars looking for a break. Boy, nice defensive play. It looked like Amden Sacco, who was able to come in and just boot that ball out of any danger zone. We used to call him the sweeper, the guy back there in the middle of that defense. You know, sometimes he was a big, intimidating kind of guy. You just didn't want to get in there and mess up with him.
Yeah, back in the day, maybe with less skill.
Yeah,
we also called him the hacker.
You're absolutely right. Today you see the defenders like catchers today in baseball. In the old days, catchers were a big, slow, sort of gargantuan kind of a guy. Now they're, quick and mobile. You see the same thing with the defenders in soccer.
Yeah, in today's game, you really can't afford to have players that don't have a skill set. Now, they might not be as quick with their feet, but they're fast, and they have their own set of foot skills.
Ball down the sideline, as you see, bellying for it. It'll be Fallston throw in. No, the ball stays in bounds.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a difference in soccer than some of the other games, sports that we see out here, is the ball has to be entirely over the sideline or the goal line.
Yeah.
And so actually you could have a ball that's touching the ground outside of that line, but because of the circumference of the ball, a fraction of it is still on the line, so it's still in play.
We talked about the 2 officials as opposed to the 3 officials. In this game, we have 2 officials, and it does make it difficult. They have to be sort of watching the middle of the field and the sidelines at the same time.
Yeah, so your head's on a swivel.
Yeah.
And in some respects, you're not able to stay as close to dynamic play as you would like to, but that's the nature of the game when the schools make a decision on whether or not they're going to have a 2-man crew or a 3-person crew.
Yeah. We're just about 4 minutes into the game. Neither team with any real scoring opportunity just yet. At Bel Air defense, Josh Martino, Amden Sacco, and Owen Conway. You've been under a little bit of pressure if you said which team has dominated to this point, Bob. It's been in the offensive end for Fallston most of the entire game.
So far. But games ebb and flow.
Yeah. Ethan Crosby, we mentioned, number 0 for Bel Air in the goal. Second-year starter, 20 saves, just 4 goals scored on him all year. Has 4 shutouts already this season in just 8 games. Interesting to kick it all the way back, Bob, to the goalie.
That's to release the pressure. Nothing in this game moves faster than the ball. So if you're getting pressure from behind, the best way is to release the back. That way you've got space between your threat and the recovery, and the keeper's in a position to see the whole field.
Yeah.
And can make the best decisions on how to distribute the ball.
Gilvin Kreis, the goalie for the Fallston Cougars. Fallston back on the attack again. Passing the 5-minute mark into the game. No call, no call. They said the
No,
they
it's
was
out of bounds.
incidental. So Bel Air will get the ball. Bobcats throw in coming from Amden Sacco. Still no call. You can hear the Fallston fans near us. They said, "Hey, man, he was hacked."
No,
You're an official.
he was shielding the ball. As long as the player's within playing distance of the ball, they can shield it. They can't stick their arms out and hold the offensive player away. And the ball was out of bounds before there's any real contact there anyway. So a good no call.
Yeah. Again, the ball has been in the Fallston offensive zone pretty much the entire game. That's by plan or just the way that, as you said, the ebb and flow of the game so far, Bob?
Well, I think what we're seeing is Fallston's making crisp passes. They're accurate passes. Oh, that was a little slip there. But so their game plan is control at this point. Ball control.
Bel Air plays with the one forward up, so they have that style of offense where they want to lay back a little bit and maybe get that breakaway if they can.
Yeah, that's indicative of a counter-attacking formation.
Fallston on the attack. Out of bounds throw coming in for Fallston.
And if we look at Bel Air's setup, they're playing at 5 midfielders. So their essence is to control the game at midfield and hope to make the counter, the turnover, and be able to quickly move forward. So those midfielders will also attack.
Past the end line it goes. Darkness settling in here at Fallston. Bob, again, we talk about playing on the turf field. We go back to the old days when you were playing at Edgewood High School and, you know, you had ruts and so forth and turn your ankle on it and the ball taking weird hops. We're so fortunate to be able to be playing on these kind of fields. Here comes Fallston with an opportunity.
Nice
and the save.
save.
That was a great save by Crosby.
Strong strike.
Ball was right on him when he was able to make that save.
It's an example of Fallston be able to split the defenders.
That was Christian Washington, by the way, or excuse me, Christian Worthington, number 17 with that shot. Bob, what's the call? Offside, maybe?
Well, I'm looking to see where no, not an off. It shouldn't be an offside. They're moving down. It has to be a foul back at this point. Or is he giving a direction for a foul? Yeah.
Yeah, the call is going against the Cougars. Owen Rickham and Matthew Richardson. Good clear by the Fallston deep man. Clock running inside the 30-minute mark, or heading that way. 40-minute halves.
Yeah, we are fortunate that we have these beautiful turf fields. The game is so much better when you play on the turf field. You get a true roll, you get a true bounce, and quite frankly, as an official, it's much easier on my body.
Roman Impagliatelli, number 4 for Fallston, had made that play just a moment ago. Here comes a breakaway. First time we've seen Connor Banton.
Nice pass.
They say get the head down. Is that what makes the ball go high when you don't put your head over the ball?
Well, sometimes the ball is bouncing high. It's hard to get your hips up high enough to be able to bring your leg through the ball on a level cross there.
Inside 30 minutes now left in the first half. We're 10 minutes in. No score on either side, as you can see. And the Cougars again on offense. Good move in middle field. That's Ethan Salsa, number 11, taken away by the Bobcats. Oh, great save. Nice diving save by Dylan Price. That ball had a chance to sneak in that lower left side.
Yes, that ball was going to go right in the corner.
Well, nice breakaway.
And that looks like this is like the second or third time we've seen that Bel Air has been able to take possession of the ball in midfield and a quick over the top in efforts to get a counterattack.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It seems like Fallston's had the ball sort of passing it around, but the Bobcats, with the open field, been able to break through and get a couple of good opportunities. Come the Bobcats.
Nice steal.
It was a very nice steal. Good takeaway. Here come the Cougars. Good defensive play by the Bobcats. That was Amnon Sacco again. Bel Air Bobcats, Fallston Cougars, two of the powerhouse teams here in Harford County. Bob, you mentioned that last year we had, 4 of the 12 teams in the finals for girls and boys soccer in the state finals.
Yeah, there are 4 classes. You get boys and girls in each one, so 12 finals. And we managed to put 4 teams from Harford County in the 12. And so that's great representation.
And the Fallston girls ended up winning it all.
Yes.
The Fallston boys, as we said, lost in the last 6 seconds to Brunswick.
Yeah, I see Milton Wright also happened to lose in the actually after went through overtime and then wound up losing in the shootout.
Often talk to people and you say, would you rather lose? Let's see.
All right, here it comes.
There's going to be a call there.
He's going to card. Yep.
Explain the cards, Bob. That's a yellow card. Explain what happens there.
Well, a player is issued a yellow card because the referee believes the foul was dangerous, it was excessive, and in that case, the foul was from behind. And so some people would think, if you're a student of the game, you say, well, that was a cynical foul because the player had a breakaway up the line. It was clear that no one was going to challenge him. So in order to stop the threat from your team, you take one for the team. Okay. You foul a person, okay, and then, but of course, when you get the yellow card in high school, you have to leave the field and be replaced. And you can come back in.
And another yellow card equates to a red?
Yes, and then you would be done and the player, your team would have to play down. So now that particular player has got to be very careful.
So if you're a coach, do you take him out to avoid the possibility of getting another foul? We just tell him to be very careful.
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends on how valuable that player is.
Very good point. Is that a key player? Is that a player you can afford to lose? Then you play a different way. Yeah. But the strategy will be tough there. I didn't see who the foul was called on, Bob, did you?
No, I didn't actually catch the number.
One of the Fallston players, though. Riley, our engineer, was kind enough to give me his flashlight here, because it does get real dark up here in the stands where we're located. Oh, good defense by Fallston to bunch in there and not get that shot to have a chance to go to the goal. That's Banton looking for a chance to get a shot off.
This is an example of that, what I talked about, the flow of the game. So
Yeah.
now we've seen Bel Air sort of begin to establish itself. Thinking their dominance felt in possession game and in pushing the ball forward.
Battle at midfield. Coming up on the 24-minute mark of this first half. Good look there at goalie Ethan Crosby, the young man's second-year starter. We mentioned honorable mention last year All-State as a junior. And Bob, you mentioned the Baltimore Sun had said he's a player to watch this year.
Yeah, and actually at the preseason, Bel Air was ranked number 7 in the Baltimore metro area, and Fallston was considered.
Fallston is now ranked 14th in the latest rankings they have. Of course, obviously, don't mean a lot, but at this point, it's nice to be ranked that high.
Yeah, the Sun comes out every Tuesday with their rankings for all the area high school sports.
Ben Sellers to throw the ball in. I think it's the first time we've seen multiple substitutions, probably with 23 minutes in, or 23 minutes left, I should say. A good time to do it. Bob, it's the kind of night I would assume where you don't get tired.
No, it's not a game where the heat or the humidity really is going to have an adverse effect on the stamina of the players. So this is one of those games where you're ready to go the whole 80 minutes.
We're sitting in the stands. It's a little chilly here in the stands, but you know, when you're out on the field, Bob, as you said, you're moving and so forth, you don't feel the chill.
No, as we can see, all the players are wearing short sleeve shirts.
It's like in football when the big linemen come out with the bare arms and stuff. It's like 12 degrees. No, I'm putting on every stitch of clothes I can find. Just about halfway through the first half. Bob Frisch, kind of what we expected, a game with ebb and flow, but a game very close, and the game, as we said, probably low scoring based on the defense that both of these two teams have.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything I wasn't expecting.
And you made a good point, whereas Fallston dominated, had the ball in the offensive end that first like maybe 8 or 9 or 10 minutes. Sort of turned around here. Just as we say that, here comes Fallston on the attack. Nope. Yep. Bob is an official. You do a lot of games.
There's another card.
This time it's going to go against the Bobcats. So we've seen a yellow card against Fallston and now one against Bel Air.
In for Bel Air, number 2, Connor Banton.
Christian Worthington, number 17, getting up just a little bit slowly there. Christian with 11 goals and 3 assists, one of the leading goal scorers for the Fallston Cougars. That's number 17, the senior.
Yeah, it's a situation too. Again, players late and come from behind.
Looks like for Fallston, that's Ryland, or Dylan Shepard, I should say. Dylan with 10 goals. He's going to be the one to meet the ball, number 10. Bob, what's happening here on defense? What are you trying to do?
He's taking a shot. That's what he's doing.
Nice diving save by Crosby. Not sure if that ball would have gotten in or not, but Crosby made sure it didn't. Impressed with Crosby. He's one of those, nice scoop coming up and aggressively scooping that ball. Instead of kicking the ball out, he throws it, gets his man started. Coming up that sideline was Ben Sellers, number 10, had the ball taken away by the opposing number 10, Dylan Shepard. We mentioned that Bel Air won in overtime last year.
Offside.
Explain the offside call, Bob.
Well, there has to be two players, two defensive players in front of the offensive player, unless the ball is behind the defenders there. So, in essence, what it does is it keeps teams from cherry picking.
Yeah.
And that was close. What had happened is the Fallston player got ahead of the play, but then he wasn't quick enough to get back.
And Bob, the great thing, we talked about officials having to be in shape in this game, and he was right on the spot to call that offside. Sometimes, as you mentioned, with only two officials, that creates a problem with being in the right spot to be able to make that call.
Yeah, we have a saying in the officials club that presence lends conviction. So while players or coaches or fans might not agree with the call,
Yeah.
at least they can't complain that you weren't in a position to make the call.
Yeah. Bel Air play going off the field momentarily. Inside the 20-minute mark in the first half. Here come the Cougars. Quentin McLaughlin, number 21. Quentin, one of the defenders, one of the backfield people. Fallston on the throw-in coming up. Jaden Dillard, number 7. It was a nice toss right in the middle.
Throw.
Yeah, right in the middle of the field. Unfortunately for Fallston, it was the Bel Air Bobcats who took it away. Boy, nice defensive play.
Yes.
Impagliatelli was the young man, number 4, a Roman Impagliatelli, who took the ball away.
He's a transfer to Fallston this year.
Yeah. I think Fallston got a couple of transfers this year that certainly have benefited them. And we talked with Chris Hoover, and he said his team is motivated this year. They, want to take that final step. But when you've been to the finals 7 times and you've come away, without a championship, on the one hand, being in the finals is really saying something, but having lost 7 times and like last year coming within 6 seconds of going to a shootout and losing to Brunswick, it's got to be a little bit like us being snake bit.
Yeah, sometimes those are hard to take. Of course, you could be the Buffalo Bills from Super Bowl,
losing 4 straight back in the 90s. Scott Norwood will forever be branded as.
Oh, here we go. Quick kick on the corner kick.
On the corner.
Wow, nice save from.
Oh, it was a beautiful save. Dylan Kreis, yeah. And a good job by Fallston. Once that ball bounced away, it was wide open. Kreis was on the ground. It had the Fallston defender not got there and knocked it away.
Bel Air player was right there to put it in.
Yeah, it was. Bob, that was an interesting, too. It wasn't a long corner kick. It was a little quick slant, and then the second guy is the one who kicked it across the goal mouth.
That's why you there is the traditional corner kick where everybody runs and stands in front of the goal and you have one player out at the corner and kicking it in. But you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Because Every team has its own little trick play every once in a while, and so that was the idea, to try to catch the defenders out of position and
they
not where they
almost
need to
did.
be.
Here's Dillard. Well, nice job coming up. Cries said, "Hey, I'm going to come up and I'm the only man who can touch the ball with my hands, so I'm going to do it." But we often talk about goalies. You have to be a little fearless.
Absolutely.
Some might say a little crazy, to go ahead and take a chance like that, because if you're out of position, then you look really bad. But he came up and took charge. Offside?
No, it's foul. Belair.
That'll give Fallston a kick here from about, now it's a 120-yard field in case you haven't checked it out yet. It's a football field, but the goals are on the inline, so it's 120 feet long. So the kick's going to come from about the 15, make it 25 yards to the goal.
And this is probably, from a goalkeeper's perspective, this is one of the worst places to have a kick come towards you, because it's in the center. So you're not able to cut the angle off. So you really are dependent on putting your wall up, and hopefully the person kicking the ball can't hook it over or around the wall.
Dylan Shepard now, number 10, about to meet the ball. Dylan with 10 goals and 8 assists already this year.
We've already seen one where he went right at it.
A little bit high. And you can see Dylan clapping his hands and sort of berating himself for not putting that ball down just a little bit.
Well, he was trying to go over top the wall because it was on the right side where the wall was stationed.
Very good point. Good job by the Bobcats to put up the obstacle. You really have to be impressed with Captain Ethan Crosby, the goalie, Bob. He's been a stalwart back there.
2 really good saves on each end of the field.
Dylan Cries on the other side. And we saw that coming in. We knew that both goalies were to be reckoned with.
Nice steal.
It was a nice steal. That's Christian Worthington, number 17, who made that steal.
There. Oh, deflection. Corner kick.
Corner kick coming up. Good job by the goalie Crosby, who was in position to knock that ball down had it been close enough. I think this is Fallston's first corner kick coming up. I believe they've had one before. Beller had that one little short one that we saw. Corner kicks, as you know, Bob, present the opportunity. If there's a chance to score here, it's like this is the time you can do it.
I think the statistics are somewhere around 1/3 of all the goals are scored on what we call set pieces.
Yeah.
And the corner kick is one of those.
Nice job by Beller to come up and disrupt that offensive play. Fallston still with the ball. We talked about that ebb and flow. Here come the Bobcats. Nobody to throw to, though, all by himself. Bob Frisch, we talked about the ebb and flow, and now we're seeing Fallston, who had been sort of on the defense for a while. Now it looks like they again have taken a little bit of the momentum away.
Well, I think what also happens is that the coaches begin to see what the strategy of the other team is. And so what they start to do is change their tactics. And so I think probably that's what some of what you've seen here. Some of the tactics have changed.
Bob, you mentioned 2 old coaches, and I use that term advisedly, Paul Metzger and the late, great Terry Colall. Colall for Aberdeen and Metzger for Edgewood, who were great friends, best friends, until they got on the field. We had that same situation tonight with Dom Rose and Chris Hoover. Chris Hoover for Fallston, Dom Rose for Belair, best of friends. By the way, we were told by Chris Hoover, it is Dominic Rose's birthday today.
I'm sure his team would love to give him a good birthday present.
I said to Chris, well, are you going to give him a birthday present? No. In no uncertain terms. But it's so good. They are the best of friends, and have been for so many years. Chris Hoover, who is the athletic director here, the soccer coach, and teaches a full-time load of social studies. That's a full-time job, Bob. You were a teacher. You know that's tough enough just to be a teacher, much less being a coach and an athletic director on top of that.
Well, that's a lot on his plate, but
Yeah.
it speaks to his love of the game.
Exactly. And his love of the kids. It is all about the students and the athletes. Obviously, it's not about the pay. Tom Rose, I should say, to give him a plug, he just opened the All-American Steakhouse and Sports Bar, not sports bar, but sports theater in Aberdeen. That just opened this year. He had been a Burger King guy for many, many years, and now has opened his own restaurant. Is that okay? Can we give him a free plug on air, Bob?
Sure, absolutely. All right, well,
Good man.
there's a foul in a very dangerous position.
Yeah. Now it looks like the Bobcats will have an opportunity here. Coming up on the 10-minute mark, just passing the 10-minute mark, left in this first half. Strategy here, Bob?
Well, try not to put it so close to keep him come straight out. But then again, don't
You don't
kick
do
it too far.
that. Galen Kilsowitz was a young man who had that. I'm thinking about what goes through your head when you're standing there all by yourself and all the thoughts are, you want to do this, you want to do that. It's so hard sometimes. It's like a free throw in basketball. They're really standing there looking at you and you know what you have to do. But your mind sometimes has a way of telling you to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, sometimes your adrenaline can get to you.
Yeah. Here's Dylan Kreis with kicking the ball away for Fallston. Taken away by Fallston. Here come the Cougars. Nice move by Ethan Salsa.
Oh,
number
nice.
11.
Oh, right idea. Trying to split the defense there.
Boy, Salsa made a nice play, number 11 for Fallston. Kind of the right idea, sort of an inside kick there, but nobody was there for Fallston. 8 minutes, 30 seconds and counting left in the first half. Reversing the field, Crosby, he took the ball all the way over to the right side, put it in play. Cougars on the attack down the left side. Inside 8 minutes. Salsa again, number 11 with the ball. Good job coming in and kicking the ball away. Owen Conway, number 22, just when it looked like Fallston had a chance to get something happening.
Bel Air's playing a very tight and compact defense. So even when we saw Fallston moving up the field, 2 or 3 players, we were looking at 4 and 5 defenders back there.
And Pagliatelli for Fallston, number 4, with the defensive play.
Conversely, on the quick counter that happened, we were looking at 1 Bel Air player all the way over on the right side and nobody else there to help him out. So that's part of the risk you take, is that you keep 1 up, but you lack the support on the quick counter.
Andrew Lassen passing the ball forward. Setting it up again. That's Lassen.
Good possession here.
It has been. Here's Conway, number 22. It's Salsa number 11 for Fallston with the ball. McLaughlin, 21, and that's McLaughlin with the throw in. Go off Fallston, it'll be a throw in coming for the Bobcats. Sellers. Back to Sellers. What's the official calling, Bob?
Well, he's indicating, if I'm interpreting what he's saying there, is that we have one player who's looking at persistent infringement, maybe. So kind of letting a player know that they're on the edge.
I think as a referee, part of the job is to not make the call, it's to prevent having to make the call. And if you can convince the players to play, the game the way it's supposed to be played, then you don't have to make the call, right?
Yeah, I mean, you talk to the players.
Yeah.
The players, they'll listen. It's simple, like a high ball, like here. I'll be talking to the players if I'm in a position. I'm saying, straight up, boys, straight up, so that they know that they're not jumping in or putting their hands up on somebody's shoulders to try to keep them down.
Bob, I'm impressed with Crosby's foot, the punting ability. He's able to kick that ball past the midfield when he wants to. Sort of reverses the momentum. I mean, there's no substitute for that. That way, it's like a punter in football. If you can reverse the field and kick the ball away. Crosby just has a powerful foot. Honorable mention All-State, as we said earlier, last year as a junior. And Bob, you mentioned that he was one of the players the pundit said you need to watch this year. And he certainly hasn't disappointed with 4 shutouts already this season. We mentioned at the beginning of the telecast the Bobcats 5-1-2, 2 ties. Their only loss coming early in the year to Hereford. Fallston undefeated, they have just the 1 tie. Fallston fans wanting a foul, Bob, but you didn't see one.
No, there was nothing. He just inadvertently got caught his feet tangled up. There was nothing intentional there.
Crosby up with the save.
But no call.
The size, too, of Crosby and Kreis, both the goalies, good-sized kids. Size helps because you can get the balls that maybe a smaller person wouldn't be able to, as long as you're quick enough.
I remember, yes, when I played, we had one of our keepers came on when I was a junior, and Dennis Compton. Of course, he was tall and he played basketball,
Yeah.
and had quite the wingspan.
Yeah,
great advantage.
Saw Dennis today, a Hall of Famer from last year at Edgewood, and yeah, you're right. Dennis was a great basketball player. I think a class of '74, I believe.
Yes.
That was really a mark of that you remember that Edgewood winning was the 1971 county title.
Yes.
At the point when North Hartford had just owned it. Nice line shot, just a little bit high. And Edgewood came and won sort of unexpectedly that year and kind of put the Ram program on the map. That was, let me see, my math is not really great, but that's about almost 51 years ago.
A while.
And we still remember, right?
Oh, yes. Some things you never forget.
Oh, goodness.
We actually had to go to a playoff in order to win the championship that year. We were tied at the end of regular season, and we had to have a playoff on a neutral site. We played in Havre de Grace.
And you defeated the Hawks.
Yes, we did.
Coming up on the 1 minute mark left here in this first half. Both teams have had marginal scoring opportunities, nothing that was really close, but both goalies are dominating. Here's the Bobcats with
There
the
it is.
breakaway. Oh, it hits the
Oh
post.
my goodness.
Almost when does it go in? Are they saying a goal?
Yes.
It looks like it bounced around and did go
Yes.
in. Oh my goodness,
It
that ball.
looked like it went off the left post, then came across the goal and hit the right post
And went in.
and went in.
I don't know if anybody else, here you'll see the replay. Watch closely how the Bobcats get the shot off. Hits the pipe, hits the other pipe, and then off the goalie.
Oh, it's own goal.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Unfortunate, yeah.
The Fallston player was trying to clear the ball out, but he kicked it right into his keeper, which then put it into the net.
But we said that sometimes in close games it's a fluke goal, and that would sort of qualify as a fluke goal. Hit the right pipe, bounced back, and then the Fallston player trying to clear it, kicked it past his own goalie. Wow. 1-0, the Bobcats with about, 50 seconds left in the half, score that goal. I guess you would give the goal credit to the closest Bobcat player.
We get credit, but it's still recognized as an own goal.
Tough
And and it's the last time, well, you don't want to get scored at all, but it's really psychologically, it's not really good to get scored on so late in a half.
Absolutely, yeah. Dylan Kreis, of course, was simply beside himself because he didn't have to make the first save. It looked like the Cougars had dodged a bullet hitting that right pipe. It came right back across the goal mouth, and attempting to clear the ball, it goes in the net.
Yeah, nothing that he could do about that.
Yeah. Tough way to go down at the half, and if you're the Bobcats, hey, we'll take advantage of it. 1-0, the Bel Air Bobcats score on a goal. 50 seconds left in the half, a goal that was, we would classify it as a flukish sort of a goal, one that you didn't really plan it that way, but it worked out.
We talked earlier that we thought, that might be the difference in the game, is that would be a mistake, it would be a fluke.
Well, a long way to go, 40 minutes in the second half, but right now it is the Bel Air Bobcats with that 1-0 lead as we go to the half. Don't go away, we'll be right back with the second half in just a moment. Action going both ways. The goal that was scored with 50 seconds left, that we called it a fluke goal, it certainly was. The Bel Air young man who made a good shot, that ball could have gone in. It didn't, hit the post and carried right back across the goal mouth. We thought it might go in. It didn't, and then a Fallston player trying to clear it, kicked it past his own goalie.
Unfortunate, but it happens.
It does. It happens in soccer quite often. You and I both mentioned that sometimes the game comes down to that.
That's a close call.
Yeah.
I think the keeper's having a little conversation with his defender there.
Yeah. Ethan Crosby says, don't give him that free run at me. Good job by the Fallston offensive player saying, hey, if you give me a chance, I'm going to go ahead and take it. Bob, halftime, let's put you in the shoes of both Coach Hoover and Coach Rose. First, for Bel Air, you're leading 1-0. What would you say to your team at halftime?
Keep up the pressure. It has worked for them. They're over the top. They're counterattacking. Maybe they need a little bit more support from the midfield because their attackers occasionally find themselves alone or without support. So it's one thing to be able to run up the field, but if you don't have anyone to pass it to, you're not really accomplishing what you need to.
Now, if you're Coach Hoover, you're down 1-0. The only goal was a goal that, wasn't a planned goal. It certainly was a chance goal. What do you say to your team? How do you get them up and say, gosh, are we snake bit again? Is this another chance of what we had in the state finals where we lose in the last 6 seconds? How do you keep that from creeping into their mind?
No, you just tell exactly what it is. You played well the first half. They got lucky.
Yeah.
And so, but what I'd like to see is a little more quickness and a little more urgency out of Fallston. They've very much tried to play the possession game, and what their allows that happen is then defensively, Bel Air can start to pack it in. Of course, they're already playing a five midfield,
Yeah.
running with their defenders, so they've already got a solid wall back there. So they need to be a little quicker to the ball, a little more aggressive moving forward.
And if you think about it, Bob, 1-0, yeah, I mean, that's a close game, obviously. A 2-goal lead in soccer, you know, it doesn't sound insurmountable, but my goodness, scoring 1 goal is okay, you can do it, but getting 2 goals down, what I'm saying is if the Bobcats were able to get 1 more goal, you know, if you're in the case of the Fallston, that's exactly what you cannot have happen.
Well, we also say in Fallston that the 2-goal lead is the worst lead that you can have.
Isn't that funny?
Because you have a tendency sometimes to let off. You think, okay, we've got 2. And then, of course, then it's even more motivation for the team that's behind saying, look, if we get 1, we can get back in the game, and it's game on. And so we're they have the motivation to say, okay, let's get over the hump of that one.
Sort of the mind game, if you will.
Yes, it is.
1-0 Bel Air again as you just tuned in, and shame on you, where you been? 50 seconds left in the half. The Bobcats get a goal that really they didn't score. It was kicked in by a defensive player by Fallston, inadvertently, obviously. You've noticed, I'm sure, that the teams have switched around. The Bobcats going now from left to right. Fallston attacking the goal on the left. Well, I think you're seeing some of that urgency on the part of the Fallston Cougars. They've got that fire now, wanting to try to move a little quicker than they did back in that first half.
It looks like it. They've picked up the pace.
Two excellent soccer teams. As we mentioned, Fallston 6-0-1. The only blemish on their record was that tie last week against Harper Tech at 1-1. Bel Air Bobcats coming in with a record of 5-1-2. 2 ties. Their only loss coming early in the year.
Nice steal.
You see that urgency on the part of the Cougars. And Pagliatelli, number 4 for Fallston. Impressed with his quickness. Cougars redirecting up that right side. Bob, it seems the pace has just picked up on both sides.
Well, I said first 5 minutes of a half and first 5 minutes after a goal is scored. As an official, we look for an increased intensity during those time frames.
And Pagliatelli again, number 4 for Fallston, battling for the ball a moment ago. And the Bobcats now with a breakaway.
Nice save.
Nice save by Crosby. Check it by Cries, I'm sorry. Dylan Cries with that save. Dylan, a captain on this team. And again, you, Bob, love to have a senior goalie with experience as your captain. It's like having, I relate it to baseball, having that catcher that you have the confidence in. He sort of runs the show. Often talk to people, and you never played goalie, did you, Bob?
Yes, I did.
Did you really?
Well, I was drafted. I didn't really want to
I
play,
was
but,
gonna say.
but nobody else would.
That was my
I
point.
stepped up. Here it is.
A breakaway
There it
and
is.
a goal!
Yes.
Goal for Fallston. We are now tied. Wow, he snuck by and the defender came out. The goalie came out. There's the goal. Worthington, who scores it. Quentin Worthington. Quentin, who has 11 goals coming in just like that. Like a flash, Worthington now ties it up at 1. 33-10 left in the game. We're tied.
Very nice sprint right down the sideline. Quick cross, split the defense, right there to pick it up.
You'll see how Bob is describing. He found himself breaking free, and there he is with the goal. Coming out and sort of outflanking Crosby. Crosby tried to come out and cut him down, but Worthington turned it loose just at the right time. Well, that's when you find yourself with the goal, you and the goalie. You don't want to panic and kick it too soon, but then you can't lay back either. His timing was perfect.
And the strike was powerful enough that even if the keeper was able to get a handle on that, he probably wouldn't have been able to keep it out of the net.
So we are now tied at 1, and now the momentum shifts back to Fallston. We talked about that, not wanting to go down 2 goals, and they certainly now have not. It is, the folks are as good as the people. I think Chuck Thompson used to say that when the game was tied. The folks are as good as the people. Never knew what that meant, Bob. I think it meant it's all even now. Chuck Thompson, those of us who have been around for a while, the old Oriole announcer, cold announcer. Take away by Fallston. Nope.
Yep.
A lot of urgency here on the part of the Fallston Cougars. Looks like the foul is going to be called against the Bobcats. Fallston player down. We're not, that's Worthington, the goal scorer from just a moment ago. Christian Worthington, 11 goals, now 12 on this season. You're going to let, I think, Christian go off the field. They're motioning. No, he's going to stay right there.
Now, what we saw here was the official walk up and talk to the player. If he had stopped the clock, then the player would have had to leave the field. So that's good officiating. You go up, you talk to the player. Are you good? Can you stay in, or do you need to go off?
Blocking that wall. That time you mentioned trying to get the ball over the wall. They tried to go through the wall that time, and it didn't work. So the Bobcats now taking over. Well, if you're Bel Air, you have to reestablish that momentum. Comes Kreis, coming out, making a nice sliding pickup. There, instead of punting the ball away, he just gives it to his player. Running free. Now, if you're Bel Air, Bob, you have to reverse it. Looks like the momentum is turned toward Fallston. The Bobcats have to get that fire back if they can.
I don't think you'll have too much trouble in that. It's just like as the game started. It's even up at this point, so it's anybody's game.
Exactly what we had hoped to see, and that is a very competitive match against 2 very excellent soccer teams. Fallston, I believe, is in the 1A classification now. I'm thinking about playoff time, and obviously these 2 teams would not meet being in different classifications.
That's correct.
But for the UCBAC title, meaning the Upper Chesapeake Bay Athletic Chesapeake Division title, certainly this could be, the title, if you will. The team that wins here would certainly be the team that would have the leg up.
And Bel Air's trying to get over the hump. They're in the same classification with C. Milton Wright, and that's been their nemesis the last few years. Of course, they're returning every starter this year. how unusual and what an advantage to have that level of experience, you know, going into the season.
Yeah.
You're talking about players who've been together for a while. They understand one another. They understand the system that the coach wants in place.
And when you reach your senior year, this is it for you. Most people won't go on and play college ball anywhere, so you want to be able to go out with a blaze of glory, if you will, especially since you played together for all these years. And playing your arch rival, and certainly, Seamilton, right, and Bel Air and Fallston, those three teams, it's more than just a game. It's more than just any other match.
Yeah, there's bragging rights there, and the reality is a lot of these players, they play club ball.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are actually on the same team, or they played against each other for quite some while, so that they have long-term exposure to one another.
Throw in by Fallston. Cougars resetting the ball all the way back on the defensive side. Now on the attack. Somehow that ball got through. I'm not sure exactly how. Crosby comes out and makes the sliding save.
Another attempt to split the defense there. Just the pass was just a little too strong. They've had some success doing that so far.
That big foot of Crosby's, he's able to get the ball out across midfield. Bobcats scored the only goal in the first half. That came with 50 seconds left when the ball caromed off a Fallston defender. And here early in the second half, Fallston comes back at 33-10 on the goal by Christian Worthington. There was nothing flukish about Christian Worthington's goal, Bob. That ball was smashed.
Yes.
So he said Crosby came out. He just really couldn't do anything about it. He was caught twixt in between, not close enough to knock the ball down. Bob, I think you made the comment, even had he got a handle on it, that ball was hit with such pace, I'm not sure he could have stopped it. Cougars on the attack. Taken away by Bel Air. The Bobcats looking to again go up on top. That ball snuck through, and wisely Kreis was able to keep his eye. It looked like that the ball was going to be passed, but instead he turned and kicked it right on the goal. Kreis was able to make the stop. Sometimes they talk about a goalie, Bob. It's like 50 minutes of boredom when you're sort of standing by yourself, followed by 10 seconds of panic when the ball suddenly is on you.
It could be. You can't let your guard down.
Yeah. Bobcats with the throw in on the offensive zone. That's Ben Sellers, number 10. Great throw. Nice head, but he's not able to get it down. You saw a goalie that time, Kreis, really didn't know whether to come out or stay back. Decided to stay back. Luckily for the Cougars, that the header went up and over the net.
Yeah, the player wasn't able to get up and be able to drive the ball with any force.
Good look at the honorable mention All-State player from last year, Ethan Crosby. 20 saves, only 4 goals coming into the game allowed all year long. Now 5 goals. Whistle sounds, the ball will go to Bel Air.
It's been a very clean game.
Has that. I think, Bob, you'll know that the official, you can say better than I, but he allowed that play to go on until it looked like Bel Air didn't have possession.
Right. Waiting
then he
to
blew
see.
the whistle. you mentioned about, the good officiating. That's what we've seen tonight. Good takeaway by the Bobcats. It was Dylan Shepard, number 10, who had the great play for the Bobcats. Shepard, a senior. 10 goals and 8 assists this year for Dylan Shepard. He's the leading goal scorer for the Bobcats. Coming up on the 23-minute mark.
Corner kick.
Yeah, it looked like it went off Shepard. Fallston again, we talked about that corner kick being, the opportunity where the offense has a good, I think, Bob, you said, what, a third of the goals scored on the dead ball kind of situation?
That's about the average. Oh.
And got a head on it. Just not able to get it down. Looked like Impagliatelli who came through and got that header. Well-designed play by Fallston, just not able to complete it. Good look at it, Ethan Crosby.
Oh my, oh
Is
my.
he out of position? Oh my goodness. I don't know if he got a hand on it or the ball was just a bit wide.
Yeah, he got a hand on it.
That ball was dangerous. That ball was headed for the net.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. It's a poor clear by the goalie, which allowed the
he cleared it on the ground in the middle of the field. Well, obviously, that's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
Another corner kick coming up for the Cougars.
Another header. Oh my goodness. Certainly.
Another very close opportunity for Fallston.
Yeah, head ball comes in, and unfortunately the player didn't get over top of the ball and skied it.
Yeah.
Should have been another goal.
Crosby now. This time he hits the ball nice and high and long. Bobcats had that 1-0 lead at the half. As you see, we're tied at 1. Fallston fans wanting a handball that was not called. I don't believe it would have been justified to do so.
There's a lot of times that the ball hits the chest, and unless you're really close to the play, you can't see that, and everybody assumes it's a handball.
Especially if you're rooting for the team that would have benefited from that handball. Sometimes you see with your heart rather than your eyes, Bob.
Sometimes.
It happens. All the way back it goes to the goalie Cries, who will left-footed into play. No call.
No.
And Pagliatelli sends it down. Been really impressed with Roman Impagliatelli's play. He seems to be a key in reversing the momentum ball going one way. He's able to take it and put it, on the offensive side for Fallston. A nice throw in. That had to be, what, about a 30-yard throw?
Yeah, look at that.
Battling at the end line. It goes over the end line. I think that'll be a goal kick coming up. Good defensive shield that
For
time.
Bel Air, number 6, Josh Martino.
Certainly, Fallston is seeming to have more possession
Mhm.
and more urgency in their possession and movement with the ball.
Uh-huh.
We've seen Bel Air have a few, balls come up the field, not as many as they did in the first half. And from my perspective, I would like to see their halfbacks, the midfielders, step up and be a little more forward on the ball. They need to support their up people. See, we're looking here. We got 3 Bel Air players, and you're looking at 5, 6 Fallston players. So, and Fallston is playing 4 back, pretty deep at this point. So they're trying to make sure that they're not subjected to a mistake and on a quick counter.
It was Jaden Dillard, number 7, the young man for Fallston, who made the play. Bob, another example, he had 1 white shirt, about 4 or 5 orange shirts.
Yeah, their forwards need a little more support.
Ethan Salsa, number 11, for Fallston. That's Dillard. Good job by Cries to reverse the field. Comes the Bobcats. Bel Air ball on the throw-in coming up. A bit of a casual throw-in that time by the Bobcats. That's nice passing there. Andrew Lassen, 7 for the Bobcats, had it momentarily. Fallston again on the attack. And the Bobcats take it away. Now, can they get some offensive force coming here? Again, about 4 defenders surrounding the 1 Bel Air Bobcat. Looks like he, I don't know if he lost a shoe or maybe no, he just gets up a little bit gimpy.
He did lose a shoe.
Yeah, he did lose a shoe. Yeah. Gets a chance to put it back on and tie it while the ball's on the other end of the court or the field.
Oh, rebound.
And it almost got kicked in. That ball bounced off the goalie, came right back out, and it was there to be had. Unable to get another foot on it. That was an opportunity for the Bobcats.
And they had 2 players there.
Came off goalie Cries, and then the ball was just there, waiting there saying, hey, kick me in. They couldn't find anybody to do it at that moment. Throw in coming. Ben Sellers puts the ball right at the goal mouth. Header, but unable to get it in. Good job defensively by Fallston. So mark that down at about 15-20. The Bobcats had a chance. The ball laying free there in front of the goal. Past the 15-minute mark left in regulation, 1-1. Just not able to get the ball turned enough. We mentioned last year's game was a 1-0 game by the Bobcats, winning that one in overtime. So these two teams are accustomed to playing one another in a very tight match. Dominic Rose, the great coach for the Bobcats, 22 years, 203 wins coming in to the season. And Chris Hoover, who just passed 200 wins himself in his 2 stints with the Fallston team. Bob Frisch, you know, in your relationship with Paul Metzger, your coach back in the Edgewood days, a lifelong friendship. When you think about Chris Hoover and Dom Rose, these are the kind of men that young men gravitate to and, you know, come back year after year because of the lessons they learn from those coaches.
You know, as a teacher, and even if you think back to your own experiences, that there are generally only a few teachers that really stick out in your mind. For the most part, teachers are, I'll just say, like they're big players on the play, you know, the story of a student's life. But there are those occasions where you have a teacher that really makes a difference for you. And it's really wonderful, a really wonderful opportunity if you can keep long-term connection. And it's like with me and Paul. He was my shop teacher, then he was my coach, then he was my mentor, and now I consider him my friend. And those relationships, you know, student and teacher at that level don't happen very often, but when they do happen, there's something special.
They are very special. We're talking about Dom Rose. Here's the kick. Knocked off the goalie. The ball is there. Oh, good job by Crosby to knock that one down.
Fallston needed a follow up there.
That was a great left-footed kick by that young Fallston player. They have really put the pressure on Crosby here. Here's Impagliatelli. Just all over the field, this young man. "12 minutes now left in the regulation. Just looking forward as it comes to that, Bob. Two 10-minute overtimes, sudden death, no shootout, so it could remain a draw if things continue the way they are now. Of course, we're anticipating there's a lot of time left in this regulation. 11 minutes and change. Both these two teams have had draws already this year. Bel Air has had 2 of them. Fallston with 1. Inside 11 minutes now left. Impagliatelli. I think of the Energizer Bunny when I think of Impagliatelli. He just seems to be always in motion. Bob, the wind picking up just a little bit here as the night wears a little deeper.
A little bit, but I don't think it's enough that it would affect play.
Come the Bobcats looking to get a shot off. And high. Of course, we're doing this game on a Thursday night. Hurricane Ian churning away, coming up the Carolina area, and probably the bands of clouds we see, and the wind may be a harbinger of things to come from that gentleman.
Yeah, I think it'll get to us eventually. It's going to interfere with our golf game.
Oh, that's not fair.
That's all right. Gives me more time to practice.
You think it'll help?
I hope so.
It can't hurt.
It costs money to go hit balls at the golf range.
Yeah, great fun. They say maturity is when you learn you'll never be good at golf. You know, you keep thinking, hey, if I keep practicing, eventually I'll get good. And then at some point you say, nah, this is what it will be. And it was Jaden Dillard, number 7, who kicked the ball, reversing the field for Fallston.
Yeah, offside call.
Maybe only the second one we've seen tonight. You mentioned the two officials, Owen Righam and Matthew Richardson. Done a nice job.
Yeah, they have. I've liked what I've seen. They talk to the players. They've made the calls when they have to. You know, soccer is a contact sport, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
And just because there's contact doesn't necessarily mean it's a foul.
Yeah.
And so good referees will allow players to dictate the pace of the game, and will only call what's necessary. Because the idea is really, we don't want to stop play.
Right.
We want to see dynamic play.
Right.
We want to see the excitement. So it's as much an art as it is, you know, knowing the book.
A bit high on the kick, and able to get it down where he needed to.
Into the game for Bel Air, number 1, Jordan Kozak, and number 9, Galen.
7:35 and counting left in the regulation. I've heard it said too, Bob, that the best official is the one you don't notice, the one that you don't even see, just controls the game, as you said, without becoming part of the game.
That's the goal.
It is the players who, the ones that you pay to come see, and the ones who, you know, should decide the game. Yet the officials have to be able to establish that kind of understanding on the part of the players. I think you made a mention, an interesting point too. People think of soccer and football, soccer being a contact sport, football a collision sport.
Yeah.
Soccer is a definite contact. There is times when players will be running together and making contact one with the other. Goalie Cries allows the ball to come to him. 6 minutes, 30 seconds left. Was Worthington putting the ball down deep into the offensive area. Fallston unable to capitalize. Christian Worthington, the goal scorer for Fallston, scored that goal at 33 minutes and 10 seconds into the second half. Beller's only goal came at 50 seconds left in the half, and you may remember, if you saw it, it was that kind of flukish goal that hit the upright and got kicked in inadvertently by a Fallston player. 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Bobcats on the attack, taken away. I think that's Worthington.
Wow.
Hits the side of the net.
That was close.
Worthington again, that time with the left foot.
Yeah. No fear there.
Yeah.
Take a chance, catch the keeper off guard.
Check, I think that's number 12, Andrew Ritchie, not number 17. Come the Bobcats now, looking to try to mount some pressure.
Nice
Great
steal.
defense. Trying to get a number on that defensive player. Carrying the ball all the way up. That's Zach Stromberger, number 8, who made that steal and then carried the ball all the way up. Goalie Dylan Kreis comes up and puts the ball back in play for his team inside 4 minutes.
Wow.
And that was a nice center left-footed kick. Bella did a good job playing defense that time to intercept it. Coming up on the 3-minute mark, left in regulation. Wide on that kick. Now inside 3 minutes.
Into the game for the Cougars, number 6, Ian Wilson. And in for Bel Air, also number 6, Josh Martino.
Dylan Kreis getting some help with that shoe from a teammate.
Hard to tie those laces with those gloves on.
Good point. Help from your friends when you need it. Clock winding now at inside 2 minutes and 30 seconds in regulation. Bob, are you feeling urgency if you're one or the other team, or do you say, we'll just go to overtime?
It looks like an overtime game to me. I think what you're also seeing is we don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah, that was the purpose of my question. Do you go all out and attempt to win the game, opening yourself up for a mistake that might lose it for you, or do you just say, okay, let's just live to fight another day?
Well, if the situation presents itself, yeah, sure, go. But at the same time, don't make yourself vulnerable.
Battling for the ball, taken away by the Bobcats. Good job by Andrew Lassen, number 7 for Bel Air.
Here it comes.
Oh, nice job by Kreis. It was almost like a catcher going down and blocking that ball, not letting there be any opening that the ball could slide through. Dylan Kreis, been very impressive. Both goalies have really played well. Not that we would have expected anything less with these two seniors. Both captains of their team.
It's what I've expected. A low-scoring game, very defensive-minded. However, taking the opportunity to attack when you had it.
When you look at some of the scores during the year, Fallston defeated Francis Scott Key by 9-1. They beat Century by 4-1, 5-0 over Winters Mill. So they're a high-scoring team. But you can see how good the Bel Air defense is, that they've held them to just that one goal. Crosby says, I'm not going to let that ball get by me, as the clock ticks down to 0, and we indeed have free soccer. So whatever you pay, you get to see extra.
Extra bonus, like extra innings in baseball.
I'm telling you. And again, it's 2 10-minute sudden death, meaning that if you score at any moment, at any time, the game is over, but it could go to 20 extra minutes, and if that expires, then we have a draw, a tie. And again, both these teams have experienced that this year. Bel Air has 2 ties. Fallston has 1. I'm excited. Where else would you want to be? Maybe a warm fire would help.
No, I wouldn't mind being down there on the field wearing those green jerseys. I
Yeah.
tell you what, it, it's it's the best seat in the house.
My partner Bob Frisch, who's been Bob an official for how many years now?
Oh, it's been probably getting on 30 years now.
Well, uh, and love it.
Love the game.
It's they pay you a little bit, which I guess it helps, but the big thing is it keeps you involved.
Yeah, it's you're you're aware that coaches want to be. You want to be on the field, being able to see what's happening, directions, etc. But as official, you can't. But you're right where the action is. You're there, and it just doesn't get any better than that.
But Bob, can I break the news to you that nobody likes an official? Everybody, when you make a call, half the people hate you. Okay, you make a call, then the other half of people hate you. It's just think about that,
Well, you have to have a thick skin.
There you go.
And what we say in the business is you can't have rabbit ears.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you can't be.
Yeah.
The reality is, for me as an official, obviously the coaches are going to be saying things, but sometimes it's called gamesmanship. They're
Yeah.
trying to work you a little bit. Okay.
No.
And
You telling me coaches would try to work an official?
Yeah.
No.
So I take my clues from the players. And I've always told them, so look, when we have coin tosses, look, you got an issue, talk to me.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the same thing applies for a teacher in a classroom. You establish guidelines, you establish, a forum, what's going to happen, and then you allow kids to have fun, to do what they want to do in terms of, as long as they're within the bounds of that particular thing you're doing, be it a classroom or in this case a ball game. I always equate that being an official with being a teacher, and you've done both. We're waiting around here for the beginning of the first overtime period. Again, we mentioned 2 10-minute overtimes, sudden death, sudden victory. The goal scores and the game is over. Both these teams have had experience. We mentioned that Fallston last year in the state finals against Brunswick went all the way down to 6 seconds left in, I guess it was regulation or overtime.
Second overtime.
Second overtime. And Brunswick scored that goal that won the state title, in Fallston for a 7th time under Coach Hoover came up second best in the state. I think, Bob, you mentioned back to 1992, Fallston did win a state title in boys soccer, but not since 92. And this being 2022, if my math is correct, that's 30 years ago.
Quite a ways. But the reality is we have plenty of schools in the state that have never won it.
And never been to a state final. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. 7 times you've been to the finals and 7 times you've lost. Okay. No, 7 times you've been to the finals.
Yes.
Yeah. Where, I'm thinking about if I were a team that had never been to the finals, I would take those odds. Let me get to that final hurdle. But of course, what Coach Hoover and his team are talking about is, all in this year. This is the year. We're seniors, we paid our dues, and now it's time for us to take that final step. Along the way, of course, we're playing the Bel Air Bobcats in a 1-1 tie after regulation. Mention the Fallston fans here. You've probably heard them on our field mics. They have been into the game the entire game, and now they're whipping up a lot of enthusiasm. They would love to see their team come out with a victory. And what better team to come out with a win against than Bel Air? I mean, you look at the schedule, Bob, and you say, Fallston, if you're Bel Air, yeah, that's the game I put a red mark against. That's the game I'm looking toward.
And the same is for officials. We love to have the game.
And the same for Hartford TV. We love to be able to telecast just this kind of game. A rivalry game that turns out to be exactly what we hoped it would be, and that is a very competitive, hard-fought, well-played, and cleanly played game.
There was only 3 fouls in the second half.
Yeah.
And while we had a few more and 2 yellow cards in the first half, they weren't what I consider to be egregious
Yeah,
fouls.
yeah.
They were more tactical fouls,
Yeah.
like I say, take one for the team sort of thing. But very well played game.
Now the pressure is really on. Unlike the regulation where a goal is scored, you keep playing. Here, a goal scores, the game is over. So the pressure, Bob, does mount. You know you can't make a mistake. You talk about a draw, a tie being like kissing your sister. I don't know. I think a draw is a sign of you didn't lose. How do you feel about that? Would you draw? Many people say I'd rather just go ahead and lose than have a draw.
No, no.
No, the ball right in front of the net.
A loss is still a loss.
Yeah,
Offside.
offside is the call. Notice the official right on the spot there to make that call. Owen Rickham and Matthew Richardson, the officials, done a great job.
They've called what they needed to call, and they've let the players play.
Here comes Fallston. Remember, one goal wins it. Just unable to get the head turned. Good defensive job by the Bel Air Bobcat. Able to fend him off. Seven minutes and 20 seconds left in the first overtime. Breakaway. Good job defensively. Oh,
Nice
great
save.
save.
Nice
A
save.
remarkable save. Are they going
Now
to
we have
call?
offside.
No. Looked like they were rooting for a foul there, but boy, that was a great save. That ball was spanked, making the save with Dylan Kreis able to just to go out horizontally to the ground and make the save. That had the markings of the winning goal, Bob.
Yes, it did.
Coming up on the 6-minute mark in the first overtime.
Wow.
Oh, and just
Another.
like that, Crosby with the save.
Yes.
We've seen both goalies just lay out and make saves. Wow. Now, you mentioned about having played goalie not because you wanted to. These two young men look like they really relish the role of being a goalie.
Yeah, and it's in today's world, they have camps for goalies, and for me, it was just,
Yeah.
okay, who's going to do it? But yeah, in today's game, you got to choose to be a goalie. You got to want to do it. And like you say, it takes a special personality to be able to play goalie and be good at it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's danger.
There is
There's
lots
danger.
of danger. Oh, coming out and making the save, Kreis again. Kreis saw the danger looming, and he came right out and said, hey, I'll put an end to this. Good defense also by Fallston to be able to surround that Bobcat player. Impressed with the Bobcats here in this overtime. They have really, come out to play. Two great shots, one by Fallston, one by Bel Air. Great saves by the opposing goalies. Coming up on the 4-minute mark left in the first overtime. Fallston with the ball. Good job by Quentin McLaughlin.
Nice control, Fallston, all the way coming up the field. Maintain possession. Wow.
And there he is again.
Again.
Crosby. Wow. Again, it had the markings of the end of the game. Crosby says, not on my watch. Three minutes, 40 seconds, timeout called on the field. I don't know what that timeout's about, do you? I don't know if one of the teams called time or I don't see an
There's no
injured player.
timeout.
Now they've marked the clock back to run. Yep.
Quite honestly, I don't know.
Maybe it's an equipment situation, not sure, but now the clock is back moving at 3 minutes and 25 seconds and counting. Attempted to clear. Wide. That ball was just wide again. That was Christian Worthington, the young man who scored the goal for Fallston, using his left foot. Notice that Crosby did such a great job, Bob, of cutting off the angle. If that ball had been inside the goalpost, I think he'd have been there to
He was
save
in
it.
position to get that ball.
Of course, that anticipation is so important as a goalie. You can't wait till the ball is kicked. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Fallston still in possession. Taken away by the Bobcats. Breakaway.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's going to be a foul.
And there's going to be a card.
Taken down from behind. Let's see what's going on here now. Impagliatelli, the young man who received the yellow card.
That's a second yellow card, which became the red.
On Impagliatelli?
Yes.
So the number 4, the young man we've been talking about all game long, being sort of the spark plug for his team, is out. Now, are they playing a man down?
They'll have to play a man down now.
So the Cougars are down a man with 1:29. Is that for the rest of the game? Or
That's
just
for the rest of the game.
Okay. Clock running at 1:22. Bobcats coming up with a penalty kick.
Free kick.
A free kick, excuse me. Thank you, Bob.
Kick, yeah.
Clock is moving.
Nice save.
Prize with the save.
Another save.
So now Fallston, remember, is a man down with the rest of this game. We have a minute left and now inside a minute in the first overtime.
And that was a good call by the referee. That was clearly a foul from behind.
From
He was
behind.
holding him in an attacking third of the field when he had a real good shot, opportunity to challenge the score. And so it happened. Unfortunately, it's the second yellow. And that's why I say when you're on a first, you just have to be so careful.
And then Impagliatelli, the young man, again, who you certainly can't take him out of the game because he is such a key part of the game. But now you're playing a man down. Bob, the advantage of being obviously a man up. Oh, great. Now he's one-on-one with the goal. Can he score? And he does! The Bobcats will win this game. It is number 5, and let's see if we have a number 5 on our program. That's going to win the ball game with 15 seconds left. The Bobcat fans, there's a little bit of a skirmish here on the sideline as Bel Air comes over talking to the Cougar fans, and cooler heads prevail. Here comes a replay. You'll see this young man gets a breakaway. And now it's one-on-one on the goal. And coming out to try to make the save is Cries, and scoring the goal for the winning goal for the Bel Air Bobcats with 15 seconds left in the first overtime. Bel Air will win this game by a final score of 2-1. I'm looking for my program here to see, because number 5 was not in the starting lineup. Bear with me while I...
Matt Weidman.
Matt Weidman is this goal scorer. Number 5 for the, yeah, there he is, Matt Weidman. 9 goals and 4 assists coming in. Now he's got 10 goals. And what more important goal than that, Matt Weidman with the goal to win the ball game, 15 seconds. He got the breakaway, beat the defender, and the goalie, Cries, came out to try to make the save. Very skillfully, Bob, he just carried it all the way until Cries had made his commitment and then banged it to the lower left side of the net.
Yeah, there really wasn't much that the goalkeeper could do in that case. He has to commit, and you got to go one way or the other, and hopefully you get a missed kick or he goes the direction that you were headed. It just didn't work out that way.
So this showdown now between the Bel Air Bobcats and the Fallston Cougars on the Fallston field. The Bel Air Bobcats come up with the win. They now go to 6-1-2 for Fallston, their first loss of the year. They go now to also 6-1-1. What a ball game! What a tremendous competitive game, Bob. And to end that way, obviously, you know, it's a great breakaway by Weidman. And I was really impressed. He didn't panic. He didn't say, okay, I'm going to bang it here as soon as I get free. He made the goalie commit and then hit it right by him.
And that's the strategy for Bel Air all through the whole game. They were playing over the top, trying to split the defense. They were playing short up front and trying to make sure that with playing so many players in the center, in the midfield, trying to use those players to push the ball forward to get those speed. Obviously, they had speed up front, which we just saw at the very end, and you can't teach speed.
No, you can't. Matt Weidman, again, number 5 for Bel Air, one of the captains, a 3-year starter, now with 10 goals and 4 assists. Just a wonderful play on his part. If you're Fallston, obviously, you know, the first goal that scored was a fluke goal, so, you know, you feel like you maybe should have won the game 1-0, but that's the way it goes. You had opportunities. Crosby, the goalie for Bel Air, just give him all the credit in the world. Ethan Crosby, the honorable mention All-State last year, who demonstrated again that that was not a miscalculation. And he may be, as you said, Bob, already counted as a player to watch this year. He certainly has given every indication that he deserves to have that kind of award.
Yes.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed it. The Bel Air Bobcats winning by a final score of 2-1 in the first overtime, defeating their arch rivals, the Fallston Cougars, on Fallston's field. Bob, final comment?
Great game. It's what you come to see. Two teams, competitive, evenly matched. You know, it's unfortunate.
Yep.
You know, one team's got to win, one's going to lose, but it's the kind of it's what you come out to see. It was exciting. It was well played, and I take my hat off. I tip my hat to both teams for an excellent show this evening. Very entertaining.
Bob Frisch, thank you so much for being my partner tonight. 2-1, the Bel Air Bobcats win it. We hope you've enjoyed it. Stay tuned all season long for high school sports on Hartford TV. Don Morrison for Bob Frisch. Good night, everyone.